Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Ignite, Engage, Empower, Unleashing Student Engagement in the Classroom. My name is Jamie McPherson, and I am excited that you have decided to join in today. I hope you leave today with some practical strategies and practices that you can implement in your classroom with your students to get to the core of what engagement is. And when it comes down to it, I really think this is the one thing that is hard to really figure out. It's something we all want to do as educators, but it's really hard to figure out some practical ways to do that. So again, that is my goal today, to leave you feeling like you have those strategies and practices in hand and could include them even in your practices in your classroom tomorrow. So with that, we will get started. Joining me today is Robin. Robin, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Robin. So Robin is here for questions you may have. You can put those in the chat that relate to anything that's happening on the tech side of things, but she's also there to help facilitate the polls as well. Today we'll be getting your feedback on some of these strategies. And then also just want you to know there will be a recording of this. So you'll receive an email from us with a recording of this webinar, just in case you want to refer back to it later. And also, there's a resource document that you can, we call them hyperdocs, you can access as well in the chat. So Robin's going to put that there as well. This will have all of the resources that we go through today for you to access. So you can, again, have it after this webinar is over. We've linked those important pieces that we talked to. So there's some articles, there's the strategy resources if there are resources attached to a specific strategy, and a lot of good stuff. So please check that out, and you could really open that up as we go along today to follow along. The first thing I want to do today is just talk about our sponsor, Blue Apple Projects. These are project-based learning units that engage students, teach the content that you have to teach, and make the world a better place. And we do this type of teaching in real and authentic ways through these projects. So each project includes a project plan and supplies. There's online options for how your students engage in the material, real-world connections, cross-curricular content, and some collaboration options as well. And if you are interested in learning more, you can go to blueappleteacher.org, and you could also save 10% on your next project by using the code webinar. So I encourage you to check that out. Also, if you'd like to receive one of these at no cost, stick around towards the end. I'll be telling you how you can go about getting one to use in your classroom by simply just reaching out to me. So stay tuned for that. Just to get a feel for who's joining in today, I'd like to know what grade of students you teach. So are you a lower elementary teacher, upper elementary, middle school, high school, or other admin? Let us know what grade levels you're teaching. And Robin has launched that poll for us to engage within.
All right, Jamie, they're still rolling in. Let me give it about 5 more seconds.
Awesome. That's helpful. Just give us a feel for how we, the tone of the conversation we have going forward today. So thanks for throwing that, your idea, or actually your selection out there so we can talk to those ideas accordingly.
All right.
Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, so we are 47% middle school, followed by 36% upper L, 22% high school, 6% lower elementary, and 3% other or admin.
All right, so a good range of attendees today. Awesome. And again, welcome to everyone who's chosen to be here today. So let's just walk through the agenda we're going to follow today. So we're going to start with the why. I think it's really important that we always start with the why behind the work. So we're going to look to answer this question: why is student engagement crucial for learning? We'll then jump into the what is it. So when we talk about student engagement, what are we actually talking about? And then we'll jump into the strategies and practices, and we've divided that into 3 sections here. So we'll talk about ignite, engage, and empower. With ignite, we're just looking at those things that really ignite the learning. So how can we stimulate that curiosity and that interest within our students? And then the next category we'll jump into is engagement, and actually those strategies that actually do engage, that promote that active engagement in the classroom, that active learning. And then finally, empowerment. And we want to talk to that around ways that we can incorporate practices to encourage student voice and choice in our classroom. That's really the core of good, solid learning and true engagement. So we'll get there with some strategies and practices today. So let's start with that why. Why is student engagement crucial for learning? So there's lots of research out there, as you probably have come across, when it comes to student engagement. But we have learned that engaged students find enjoyment in the work that they're doing. They're able to take the information that they're learning and retain that information so that they can recall it at a later time. They learn to persist despite the challenges they face. So when they face a learning hurdle, they're able to figure out how to work through that. They also earn higher grades, and we know it's not all about the grades, but it's definitely part of the job that we do every day, right? And so they also, I think that this is really, really important. They develop self-confidence as a learner, and they really begin to see that learning is not just an in-school practice, but they are lifelong learners. And I think that really speaks to why student engagement is so important, because if we can engage them, we can do all of the things we see here. I also like this frame where it talks about how when students are engaged in the work they're doing, the tasks at hand, they're more focused, they're more interested, they're more motivated to continue learning, and learning becomes more efficient. And so I think if we can get to anything that is more efficient in the classroom, all the better, because our time is so limited and there's so much that we have to teach. So really, what it comes down to is, getting to that level of student engagement where these things are lining up and learning does become an efficient process. So there's a little bit of the why, but let's now talk to the what. What exactly is student engagement? And I love this quote. I know we've probably all heard it, but it's a great time to remember it and remind ourselves of it. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, and involve me and I learn. And this was a quote by good old Benjamin Franklin. But I really do feel like that is the core of good learning, right? It's one thing to be told something. We might remember it for a small amount of time, but when we can be involved in the process of learning, we really do learn and retain that information. And I think that's a lot of what we do today will help spark that within our students and carry that on throughout the school year. When we're talking about what it is big picture, we can kind of look at these three buckets that we hope to fill or at least address. And so there's cognitive focus, which is our students' attention on the task. The emotional fuel, what is it that's motivating them? What are they interested in? What are they curious about? And then this idea of constructive learning behaviors. So all of this put together leads to that deep and long-lasting learning. And so we can look at it this way too. When we're talking about that cognitive engagement, it's when students can really deeply process the information that we're giving them or they're seeking out. They feel motivated, right? And they want to do the work, and they have this innate ability to want to be a learner, and they can persevere through a task. That's the cognitive attention they give to those tasks that allow students to do that. The other bucket is emotional. So these are things like attitudes that students have towards learning, their interest areas. What are the things that they value? And within this construct of our classroom and learning, do they have a sense of belonging? And then finally, the behavioral. This is when they learn to participate in learning activities, not simply because we're telling them to, but because they genuinely want to, and they know how to interact well with others. So those are the three buckets we're always looking to engage our students within through our work in our classrooms. Philip Schlechte, he's a thought leader. I believe he started as an educator and then moved up to the collegiate level, but he developed through his work these 5 types of engagement levels. And so at the very bottom, we have this rebellion stage, and these are those kids who are just have diverted attention. There's no commitment to the learning that's at hand. Those are the students we usually see who are, causing trouble. As we move up, I want to talk to specifically these type 3, type 2, and type 1, because type 3 is those are the students who their attention to the task is low and they don't have a great amount of commitment to the task at hand, but they're not doing anything to cause a negative consequence. They're present. Up from there is type 2, strategic compliance. These are students who their attention is high, but their commitment is low. And these are simply the students, a lot of our students fall in this category. The students are there because they know that they have to do the work to get the grade. So they haven't yet reached the top of the staircase, as I like to say, that type 1, the full-on engagement, which is high attention and high commitment. And these are those students that attend to the task because they recognize the need for the information that they're learning. They see learning as a lifelong process. And so when we can get to that level of engagement, there's not a whole lot we can't do as educators. And so, but again, it's not an easy process. There's lots of ways that we can take to get there. So with that in mind, we're going to jump into this first area that we've called Ignite. How can we stimulate curiosity and interest? How can we get that engagement started? And so these are, again, really practical strategies, things that you'll be able to put in play tomorrow if you'd like. With that, though, thinking, I want to refer over to a researcher and scientist named Elizabeth Bonowitz, who basically is a great quote there, but what she summed up in her work is that curiosity is innate in all humans. And I think that's really important to consider because, and we see this especially with, really little kids. They ask 100 questions in a given hour. They're incredibly curious. They're grabbing things, they're exploring things, they're trying out things because they're curious and they want to know more about the world that they're living within. And so I think thinking about that curiosity is innate. We just have to foster it and ignite it, really helps lay the groundwork for good classroom instruction. And so there's another book out there that I encourage you to read. It's called Nonsense. It's The Power of Not Knowing. Author is Jamie Holmes. And the book draws this really beautiful picture about the importance of allowing students to grapple with uncertainty, allowing them to fail often and pick themselves up and not always knowing the answer. So there's no one right way to get to an answer. They're going to have to figure it out. And so we could do this work the best way through using real world examples. So anytime that we can incorporate real world examples in our classroom exploration and learning and in all the ways, all the better. And so it has a high interest level for students because there's relevancy there, there's authenticity there. And also that process of just grappling with uncertainty and the unknown gives students and encourages them to explore and discover, just like all the 3-year-olds that live in our world, right? And so just giving students the space to have that time is really, really important. So some small strategies we can try out is this idea of this taboo tactics, right? Sometimes we need to take advantage of the fact that, we're all fascinated by the illicit. So when we're talking about things that we make it known to our students that they should not be they should not be learning this yet, right? So we can build up anticipation around it. We could shut the door and say, okay, I know we're not supposed to be learning this yet, but just again, building up the excitement around it. It fuels them, it makes them want to know. And whatever you say the learning is, they're going to be a little more engaged because we simply set it up with that high interest around it. So that's a very small way. We call that taboo tactics. Another small way is when we're starting any unit or anything that might be drawn out for an extended period of time, is to put an image up on the screen and then slowly zoom out. And maybe each time we zoom out, they have to do something like answer a question that reveals the next picture. And slowly as we zoom, we've zoomed in on an object, but then slowly we've zoomed out and we reveal the object. And maybe that's what the core of our learning is around. And so we'll kind of just do a quick example of that. And really, this is simple to put in play. You just take a really zoomed in picture and then take a few steps, zoom out back and take additional pictures each time. And so again, whoever's in an earshot of the room you're in, shout out to that person, or maybe there's nobody there, but what could this be? If you had to guess right now, what could that be? And we'll slowly zoom out here. See if your response changes. It's a little more insight, right? And again, think about how we could play this out with our students. And so maybe we begin to see that it is honeycomb, right? And so eventually we lead to that end picture, and maybe we are learning about the role that bees play in our environment. Again, a great way just to build up anticipation around a given topic. Another way is a very similar strategy, just played out a little differently, and we call this strategy reveal it. So we start with a picture that we put behind on a slide, and then we overlay squares so that each time we can reveal one square at a time, and slowly that picture gets revealed. So we'll do this again so you can kind of see what that looks like. But again, if you want to know how to do this, or I have a video made on this one in particular, so just send me an email after. I'd be happy to send that your way. But so this is what it might look like, right, starting out. Think about this though. We could put questions on each of these squares, and every time they answer the question, that is a square that gets revealed. So it might look something like this, and this has something to do with the topic of Ignite, right? So again, that person that's hearing you shout out, go ahead and shout another answer their way. Slowly we reveal an image, and we might have an idea now. It is a box of matches to ignite the fire, but again, ignite their learning fire, right? That's our goal as educators. So that strategy, I do have a video on, as I mentioned. If you're curious, shoot an email my way. I'd love to send it your way. And this next strategy is called impossible is nothing. Now, this is for those teachers who are okay with doing something a little outside of the box. And so what we do here is we post a $20 bill, a real $20 bill, and we put up high in the classroom somewhere, and we challenge students to complete a task. They have to solve a particular challenge. The twist, though, is that make sure it's a challenge that is impossible. Now, again, we're getting to the point that, we want to persevere when things get tough. So some of these challenging tasks could be to build a perpetual motion machine or a two-sided polygon, right? Through their persistence, that's where the work is. We want to see that they persist through a task, and maybe it's unlikely they'll get that $20 bill, but who knows, right? Impossible is nothing is the name of the strategy. So at the very end, though, of course, they might not get the 20, but we can praise them for their perseverance. So again, a little out of the box idea, but I encourage you to give it a try. Now, we've heard several strategies here, and I'm curious which ones you're going to try out with your students. So feel free to make as many selections as you wish, but we have taboo tactics, that power of the illicit, zoom out or reveal. Those two strategies are kind of put in one because they're very similar. And that last one we heard, impossible is nothing. So go ahead and make your selections. Robin, whenever you feel is a good time to close that poll, please do.
All right, let's give it 5 more seconds.
Sure.
All right. So it looks like people are interested in all of them, which is great. But the winner at 68% is zoom out and reveal. And then 35% taboo tactics and 28% impossible is nothing.
Awesome. And again, lots of great strategies, and there's so many more out there. And if you're interested in more, that's another reason to reach out and send me an email. I'd love to give you a collection of strategies and resources that will help you out there. This next section we have is the engage section. Now, we talked to the ignite, those simple ways to connect with our students right out of the gates. But now let's talk about how we can cultivate critical thinking and problem solving. And really, when we think about the skills that make us successful in life, these are two key areas, right? That critical thinking piece and that problem solving piece, and they do generally work hand in hand. So one strategy, and again, this could easily go into that ignite section we just talked about, but I like it here because I think it does. You could play this out in a way that involves a lot of critical thinking. So this strategy is just called the mystery box, could be a mystery bag, whatever you have on hand, but just putting items inside that box that either directly relate to the topic that you're teaching, or I like this even better, that don't directly relate, so that students have to consider each piece by piece and the connection that they all have together. So again, maybe we're talking about different states of matter, and we put salt and we put toothpaste and we put a bottle of water in there, and students are looking to find a connection between all of those things. We could reveal something each day and have students brainstorm ideas on what the connection might be. It's wonderful to get them thinking and to hear what they're thinking, because it gives you good insight into how they process information, but a really engaging activity to do. And then once they've made, all the items are out of the mystery box, then you reveal maybe the unit they're jumping into, and maybe you don't give them that answer, like withhold, right? You can withhold that connection until maybe the unit is over, or there's a point in the unit where it makes sense to reveal the connection there, or maybe even better, they draw that connection on their own through the content that we're teaching. And so again, a great strategy to try out, and you could carry this one on for quite a long time. Another strategy I love is this, they're called TED Ed math riddles. And if you've ever done or heard of anything with TED Ed, you probably have heard about this resource that's out there. And I say resource, but it's actually a compilation of lots of different resources. There are probably over 100 of these riddles. Some of them are, most of them, many of them are geared at, I would say, 6th grade through 12th grade. But what we did is we created a resource that allows you to see some of those riddles that are pared down to 2nd grade and above. And so that resource you'll see here, the TED Ed video riddles, you can access that if you click on that. It's also in that hyperdoc, but just jump into there, take a look at that. One thing we also did, we put the grade level recommendation there, but we also put like the concept concept area that it relates to. So things like maybe it's simple addition or multiplication. We kind of put that, we put that in there too. So again, if this is something you really like, I find these to be highly engaging. I'm going to start one and play one for you, but we're not going to go all the way through, but just to get a feel for how they set these up. And so we'll hear the problem that they pose, and then we'll talk a little bit after that as well. So we'll get that started right now.
Your research team has found a prehistoric virus preserved in the permafrost and isolated it for study. After a late night working, you're just closing up the lab when a sudden earthquake hits and knocks out the power. As the emergency generators kick in, an alarm confirms your worst fears. All the sample vials have broken. The virus is contained for now, but unless you can destroy it, the vents will soon open and unleash a deadly airborne plague. Without hesitation, you grab your hazmat suit and get ready to save the world. The lab is a 4x4 compound of 16 rooms, with an entrance at the northwest corner and an exit at the southeast. Each room is connected to the adjacent ones by an airlock, and the virus has been released in every room except the entrance. To destroy it, you must enter each contaminated room and pull its emergency self-destruct switch. But there's a catch. Because the security system is on lockdown, once you enter a contaminated room, you can't exit without activating the switch. And once you've done so, you won't be able to go back into that room. You start to draw out possible routes on a pad of paper, but nothing seems to get you to the exit without missing at least one room. So how can you destroy the virus in every contaminated room and survive to tell the story?
Okay, so what it goes on to do is, so it sets up the kind of the need to knows that gives our students enough information to process and figure it out. And also knowing that most of these have more than one answer solution. So I think that's really powerful too, to show our students that, oftentimes, as in real life, there's lots of solutions that can get us to to what it is we're looking for, that end goal. So they set it up, they give you a spot to pause. Everyone has that to kind of think and do. You can pause as a teacher, and then they go on to explain some of the solutions. And so an accompaniment to this particular riddle is this "Can you solve the virus riddle" resource here. So feel free, that's accessible if you want to do that. We created that for a classroom that we did professional development with. And so I'm giving that to you if you want to try that out with your students. Again, you could put this in play tomorrow. And again, feel free to check out that TED Ed video riddle resource as well, because there's a lot of them listed there that we just felt were really good for the grade levels that you're teaching and tied directly to math that you're teaching. So an awesome resource, math specific, problem solving specific to that idea of engaging our students. And so another one that I really, really love is, and I have to give credit to my son's 6th grade science teacher, Mr. Card. He's probably the teacher that a lot of you are, that just all the time doing something fun and exciting in your classroom. And he said to his students, he had a rock on a shelf, and he said, "Dinosaurs once walked upon this rock. Prove me wrong." And so it's this, again, task of persistence, where they have to really do some research and thinking around whether or not a dinosaur actually stepped foot on that rock. And so you can see all of the educational connections we could make to that. And this can be done with really anything, but just showing students an object, having them tell a story or theory about it, and then having students prove or disprove it. And he said, "If you could tell me that, I will give you that rock," which I thought was really cool. And so again, a strategy that we could utilize in lots of different ways, I thought was really, really cool. Involves critical thinking and problem solving for sure. Another strategy we like to use with teachers that come to us for professional development, but we encourage them. We always like to engage our teachers in work that they could do with their own students. So one thing we do is have them build a mascot, and the mascot could be around any given idea that you have. It involves a lot of critical thinking, because what they do, we set a criteria around it. So the criteria here is, with a partner, construct a mascot that represents your understanding of how humans impact their environment. So every piece that they place together, that their creation has, represents something. And so they have to talk to those pieces when they present their piece to the whole group. We put some constraints around it. So they have 5 materials to use that they've grabbed from a supply table, and they only have 5 minutes to create that mascot. And again, then we go around and we have everybody present. So a really great strategy. You could attach this to just about anything, but it's a great beginning of the year activity because it allows you to see how your students think. Do they think holistically? Do they think piece by piece by piece? It really gives good insight, especially when you hear them give their explanation. So another fun strategy, creative strategy that really does also talk to critical thinking. So curious, now that we've talked a little bit about engage in that engage section, which strategies are you most likely or interested to try out with your students? Is it the mystery box, the TED Ed math riddles, the prove me wrong strategy, or the make a mascot? Feel free to select as many as you would like to engage in yourself with your students. Robin's launching that now. And again, Robin, whenever you're ready, feel free to close that down.
All right, just a couple more seconds as they roll in. All right, let's close it out. All right, again, everyone's interested in all of them, but the winner is 55% is the mystery box, followed by TED Ed math riddles, followed by prove me wrong, and then make a mascot at 19%.
Awesome. And I really do love that mystery box idea. I think it's one of the things that resonates most for teachers when we talk to it. And so I love that you try it out. And if you do try it out in your classroom, please let me know how it went. I always love hearing feedback and how you're implementing these in your classroom. This next section we're going to move into and final section is empower. And I think this is like putting all the glue together. The peak of the engagement mountain is when we can really get our students to feel empowered to learn and empowered in the learning process. So how do we embrace and encourage student voice and choice? And so I don't really call these next ones strategies because I think they're more practices that we have to take on. And so you'll see a little switch there when we're talking to these. But the first practice is to build an intellectually safe culture. And of course, this looks different classroom to classroom because it has a lot to do with your own personality as a teacher. But there's one really quick switch that we can do because it's over a question that we often ask our students. What is the answer? And we say, what is the answer? But if we just quickly flip out that word the with and ask what is an answer, we begin to ask a totally different question. We've now opened it up for students to have lots of different options in how they choose to respond. And for those students who may have sat there quietly and didn't want to give a response, when we switch that over, it immediately makes them feel like they might have a solution because by the sounds of the question we just asked, there's more than one possible solution. So setting that up is just another small thing we can do. Instead of just looking for one solution, we can say, how many ways can we make 121 using a combination of these blocks? So when we're using these blocks for math, especially in elementary school, there are lots of different ways to get to that solution. And so what are all the ways we can come up with? But again, just switching from one answer to open-ended answers or open-ended questions is really, really powerful. So that's one simple change we can do in the classroom. Another one is talking to these 4 areas of inquiry. And when we talk about inquiry, it's really getting students to take ownership of that learning process, right? To be curious about what it is they're learning about. So the first one being students start with a question that they may not know the answer to, or the process and how to reach that answer. That's left up to them. So again, that leads into that next one, which is where students play a driving role in determining their process for learning, right? So we can give them the support they need, but they're ultimately finding the pathway that makes sense to them to get and arrive at a solution. And then we're just working together with our students, and you all do this so very well, right? You're constantly having those rich conversations with your students about what it is they're taking away, what process, where they're at in the process of learning. And so having those intellectually rich conversations with our students is really, really important. And that way we're not siloing all of that, like learning is here and then we're going to have a conversation here, right? We're making a connection between everything we're teaching through those conversations we're having with our students. And then also just remembering that you already went through school, so students are responsible for the work. They're doing the heavy lifting, right? They're working as hard as you are, but hopefully harder because it's their job to figure out how to go about this process of learning. So those are 4 small changes that really can lead to an inquiry-driven classroom. And so we like to frame them up that way. Again, easy to implement starting tomorrow, but again, more of a practice rather than a strategy. And this next one is just taking investment inventories. And we say investment inventories, we want to frame that up as how our students are going to be spending their time. So time investment. have students go around your classroom, go around the playground, go around the school, class by class, and just monitor and look at some of the things that they feel aren't all the way great yet, right? And so what are those things they identify? It could be as simple as cleaning up the playground. It could be more in depth, like, hey, look at all these lights that are on for no reason. But have them go around the school, their classroom, and really figure out those things that they want to make a little bit better, and then have them develop a path around that. Can we tie in the work that we're doing in our content areas around that? And that really leads in nicely to this next strategy, which is just engaging in project-based learning. And so the core here to PBL is relevancy and authenticity. And when we can give students an answer to why do I have to learn this, we really show them that what they're learning matters and that they play an active role in that process. They are the driving force that's going to get them to the answers that are necessary for them to be successful. And so I've attached this video here, and I encourage you, this is one of the projects we have, Blue Apple Projects, Take a Stand. I encourage you to check it out, and it is linked there. I believe it's also linked through that, the link I put in the hyperdoc. But this one, again, it's called Take a Stand. Check it out. And all these projects are K-8. But again, if you're looking to do something like this, I'd love to connect with you. I want to do one final check-in before we do a wrap-up today. So looking at these practices, which are you most interested in trying out? Is it just building an intellectually safe culture in your classroom? Is it incorporating inquiry-driven instruction? Is it taking investment inventories around your classroom, around your school? Or is it engaging in project-based learning? Go ahead and select as many as you'd like. And Robin will close that out when she's ready. Share those results as well.
All right, Jamie. So obviously, again, looks like everyone's interested in all the practices, but at the top is engage in project-based learning.
Awesome.
Build an intellectually safe culture and incorporate inquiry-driven instruction are close behind as well.
Awesome. So that's all great to hear. And again, if you are interested in learning more about PBL, I'd love to help you out and talk to you more about that. So I am always an email away. If you like what you heard today, this is the joy of my job is we can do this stuff every day with wonderful teachers like you through something we call Flex PD. So tell your administrators about us. We want to make sure that teachers leave feeling like they had a, not only did they have fun, but that the experience was memorable and meaningful, and the content, most importantly, could be applied in the classroom of the students that they teach. So those are just what you see on the screen, just a few of the options we have out there. And if you don't see it listed there, we definitely have something. So reach out to us. We'd love to help you. Tell your administrator all about us. So I want to share with you a couple other things that are coming up. Our next webinar is Building a Positive Classroom Culture, Strategies for Effective Classroom Management. And that one is taking place on Wednesday, October 18th. We hope you join in. You can use the bit.ly right there to sign up for that, or you can go to that the QR code as well. And something new I want to share, if you are a Michigan teacher, K-8, we are having an open house where we're on the brink of putting many new things out there for teachers for their classrooms, and we really would like your direct feedback on these. So we're having an open house. We're inviting you to come here, check out these products. This is going to be on October 17th. This is a free event, and we will make sure that you also leave, enjoy your time while you're here, and leave with a bunch of great ideas that we are offering. And again, would love to have you. Now, if you're not a Michigan teacher, we'd love that if you want to hop on a plane or drive, but we also know that's a little bit of an ask. So again, you can reach us through that bit.ly there, either the QR code or the link, if that's something you're interested in joining in on. So we'd love to see you there. We're going to close out today, but again, I promised you that we would have a Blue Apple project for you at no cost. I would love to do a code for a free project. All you have to do is reach out to me with a strategy or practice that you are going to try out in your classroom, something you heard today. If you share that with me by tomorrow, September 21st, I will send you a code to get your very own Blue Apple project. You get to choose whatever project it is that you would like. I would love to give that to you, so please reach out to me. Also, if you have any questions, my email is there, jamie.mcpherson@vaei.org. Please reach out. There's also a survey at the end that'll pop up right after we close. If you could take that as well, that's very helpful. So, and thank you for joining in today. I appreciate you and your time, and I really appreciate what you do every single day for our students. Hopefully I hear from you soon, and again, any questions, please reach out. Thanks, everyone.